Okay, the informal meeting of the City Commission's called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mrs. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Thank you. Commission, tonight we have one work session item, and with us tonight is members of the Clark County Land Reutilization Corporation, and specifically is our Clark County Community Development Director, Ethan Harris, Development Project Specialist, Kara Van Zant, Clark County Treasurer, Pam Littlejohn, and just all around awesome, Mindy Clark.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Commissioners. So tonight we want to talk to you about what the land bank is, what we've been doing over the past 10 years, because this is our 10-year anniversary, and then the partnership that we are working on with the City of Springfield. Just a little bit of background on what the land bank is. We are a quasi-governmental agency established by the Ohio Revised Code. Back in the 2008 time period, the state legislators created this entity for each county can create one. And the goal is to fight tax foreclosures and to return blighted, vacant, underutilized property back to a productive use. That is the Clark County Land Bank's mission statement. It consists of 5 board members. The City of Springfield has a seat on the board. Joyce Chilton, former city commissioner and vice mayor, was one of our founding members when she retired from the commission. Mayor Rob Rue stepped in and has been sitting on the board for several years now, serving as a member of the board. In addition to that, we have 2 county commissioners, Lowell McLaughlin and Melanie Flack-Wilt. We have a representative from the township, and Pam Littlejohn as treasurer sits on the board. And Chuck Swaney is the representative for the townships. As I mentioned, our goal is to return blighted, vacant, underutilized property back to a productive status. We do that through many different ways, one of which is through creating pocket parks. We have improved industrial and commercial properties and businesses across Clark County. We have demolished approximately 140 blighted structures to make way for new development. And we have transferred nearly 400 tax foreclosed and abandoned properties. Our work in housing, that's really what we're getting into these days, is new construction on infill properties. So where structures have been torn down in the city of Springfield and across all of Clark County, looking to ways to replace what was once removed. So we do that through many different partnerships that we've had over the past 10 years, including with Habitat for Humanity, OIC, Cliff Park, and countless others that we've worked with. I mean, just kind of looking in the room here, probably half the room we've probably worked with in one way or another. When you've done 400 lots in the city of Springfield, you just get that really great opportunity to work with folks. Representative right there just walked in that we work with on a daily basis with NHP, Greg there. Also a advisory board member on the land bank. So just going to highlight a couple really big projects that we've taken on over the past 10 years that have really been impactful, certainly to us and to the community. One being the Upper Valley Mall. So the land bank took ownership of the overall mall, the entire mall, minus the Sears property. I want to say been a while ago now, a good 5 years ago. Owned it, operated it, looked for and found a new user for the property that they've now turned into the Upper Valley Business Park. If you've been out there, you'll see that there's been a lot of work and continue to be lots of work on the structure itself. They currently have 2 industrial users in the space and are actively leasing the remaining space. I'm also happy to say that that group has also worked with the former Sears owner and has purchased that property. So for the first time in Clark County history, that entire site is owned by one individual, which is very important for a redevelopment. You'll hear developers always say that site control is number one and key. So now that that property is fully under one site ownership, we're really going to start to see transformational changes happening there. You might also remember, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, when the former grocery store on South Limestone closed. Worked hand in hand with the city and other partners. The land bank took ownership of it with our expertise in managing industrial commercial spaces of that nature. We took ownership, held it, and then worked with the city to find a end user. And I think we all know that success story today. So very, very, very excited to share that as one of our 10-year successes. So now on to what we're doing today and moving forward. I'm happy to report that we're doing very little demolition these days because of the market has completely changed, thanks to a lot of the work that the folks in here have done. So now we're looking at building up instead of doing the demolitions that were taking place. So Kara is truly the day-to-day person that carries these projects forward. So she's going to share with you what we have in the works right now.
So we are working on the affordable housing project in the city of Springfield. So there's 2 different sites that we're hoping to target. Both are in the city of Springfield. Both are through ARPA dollars. One site is funded through Clark County. One site is hopefully funded through the city of Springfield. I believe it's on the agenda this evening. What we are hoping to do, apologies, that's not going to click back. There we go. I'm a millennial, but can't work technology, so bear with me. So we are hoping to do affordable homes that are 1,300 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. These would be manufactured homes that would be permanently sited. They are just like any home that's on the market. Here we go again, technology. The first project that we're hoping to work on, which would be through the city of Springfield, would be on Grand Avenue. This project is on a site where we had done demolition through the land bank. There had been previously 5 homes on this site that were used through neighborhood improvement program dollars to demolish. They had all been abandoned. So this is what the site would hopefully look like. So we are planning on building 9 new structures on this site. Each of these homes would be qualified through the affordability under ARPA grant dollars. And I'll get a little bit more into that. I'll show you the next. We are also hoping to target the area of Liberty Street, which is over near the Dome. This site is all going to be built on properties that have been tax foreclosed, which has equated to about $175,000 in tax delinquencies that we will never see again. So let's bring those properties back into productive use. The starting point would be 6 new homes. We would eventually build down on Linden Avenue. There's a few other properties you can't see on this map here, but we're hoping to continue to do the tax foreclosed properties on this side of town. Neighborhood Housing Partnership has built new structures with the city of Springfield, just north and east of here, or west of here. So this is a neighborhood that is already seeing revitalization. This would just be tapped into more revitalization and bringing more homes. So the affordability piece that I had mentioned. So when we're building a home like this, there is quite a bit of cost that it's attached to. With the ARPA dollars that are coming in, we are able to subsidize that. So for example, the home that we're looking at with a garage, a single car garage, would be anticipated to be $193,000 to build. The value price that we're anticipating is $160,000. So we would subsidize that $33,000, and we would have to meet a family who's going to move into this home and purchase it through a normal mortgage. Would have to qualify under that 300% or less the federal poverty guideline, which is $93,600 for a family of 4. We would also, to be able to make it that affordability piece, which is making sure that a home is not over 30% of cost burden, we also have down payment assistance for those families that qualify and an affordability that would go along with that.
So we are taking a multi-layer approach to the redevelopment that has been named the Engaged Neighborhood. So it's kind of taken place over several years, probably starting with the implementation of the bike path. So if you're familiar with this area, the bike path does go directly through the neighborhood. So starting at the very top, 0 South Plum Street, Brownfield grant funds have been requested for environmental assessments. We are partnering with GEO. I think our partner is in the room that we're working with on that property, the property owner. In addition, you have the 504 West Euclid Avenue. When the structure was there, you might remember it had caught fire. The building was demolished, but there is still a concrete pad there. City of Springfield did environmental assessments on that property in the past year. We have applied for demolition funds through the state of Ohio for the cleanup of that property, with the anticipated end use being a future park, because we all know that we can't just build houses without having amenities. So certainly there is need for parks, and I think there's been many studies done to show the need for parks on the south side of our city. So then moving south of there is the Sunflower Field. Hopefully everyone's familiar with that. It's very beautiful when it's blooming. And that is currently going through the brownfield remediation testing process. Is currently being filed for another further action with the EPA. And then just south of that is the site that we are currently working on and is on agenda for this evening to be transferred over to the land bank, and for the city to grant funds towards the project that we have proposed. And then directly to the west of that site is, I think it was like an old transportation transfer station for the rail line back in the day. That property, the land bank has transferred it to a restaurant group that is working on revitalizing that. I think they just got a roof on it, so actively under construction. So you can kind of see the land bank's hands and kind of all the different properties here trying to work to return the property back to a productive status. Conscious Connect, we demo, you can't see us just off screen here, but just down. Oh no, it actually is on screen. That West Grand and I believe Southgate corner there, we transferred that over to OIC, and that's actually where Mike Rowe did one of his episodes and put in a basketball court with OIC, or sorry, not OIC, Conscious Connect. So make sure I get my partners right. We partner with everybody, and starting to get a little late in tonight. So I got a 2-year-old. She keeps me up. And Winans was closed. So anyways, yeah, working on all of those different properties, all those different projects right now. So it's just been really exciting to get to know the people that live in the neighborhood, to get to talk to them about what they want to see go in there. So we're just working the problem and getting to the solution. Some upcoming projects that we have going on. We do have grant requests, and these are projects that we're working with the city. We have all types of projects, but I want to just highlight a couple more that we're partnering with the city of Springfield on. Brownfield application for $398,000 in funds to assess different sites across the city of Springfield, and then another $373,000 in applications to the state for the city for demolition. And if you have any questions or thoughts, concerns, feel free to reach out to myself or Kara. And I will turn it over to Pam Littlejohn, our county treasurer.
Good evening, Pam Littlejohn, and this is my chief deputy, Mindy Clark. And we're here to share a new initiative that the treasurer's office has implemented, and it's called tax lien certificates. With the endorsement of the County Treasurers Association of Ohio, we've entered into a partnership with NAR. They're a tax lien collector. And this is really important for the collection of taxes. We have entered into this contract in order to sell off some of our delinquency debt. And I'll share with you some figures. Our 2024 collection for 2023 real estate taxes, we brought in $164,421,058.64. But of that collection, as of September 1st, when we sent out our delinquent billing, our third billing of the year, we had unpaid delinquent taxes on the treasurer's book of $20,505,552.82, out of control. Of that, we have 67,500 parcels here in Clark County. And of that number, we have 562 that are delinquent parcels. So, our concentration in the office since I've come in and with Mindy's assistance, we have focused on tax foreclosures. We are now holding quarterly tax sales with the assistance of our county prosecutor and our Clark County Sheriff's Department. We've eliminated the continued writing of delinquent contracts. We're adhering to the Ohio Revised Code of one contract. If it becomes void, it's not to be rewritten. Our responsibility in the office is to collect taxes for our schools. 67% of our tax bill goes to our schools. And without that funding, we are not supporting our future in the education of our community. And also our public safety, our street, our sheriff, our police, all those come out of your tax dollars. So with the tax lien certifications, what we worked with our parameters is that we took out those that have delinquencies that are homestead, so that people are 65 or older. Those who are on disability, veterans, and they're getting the homestead redemption. Property values of $50,000 or less, so we're not focused on low to moderate income homes, but we're focused on those 2-year plus delinquencies. Because in the treasurer's office, to take something to tax foreclosure, which Mindy works very hard on, we have to have a 3-year plus delinquency, and then all the work that goes into getting that to a tax sale. But selling off those delinquency debt of 2 years or greater provides us an opportunity to get money back into our schools, back into our public, back into public safety. And we have sent out letters. We sent in, Mindy's got some figures here that I'll let her share of what we did with our tax lien certificate.
With the 2 years delinquent, we started out with 213 parcels. Out of those 213 parcels, we had paid in fulls as of October 11th of 41. 29 of those started delinquent contracts, and 23 were removed for homestead, bankruptcy filings, and mortgage foreclosures. As of today, we have 76 of those parcels that started out at 213 that are pending the payment for the tax certification lien that will be put on these properties. And out of the certified to prosecutors 2 years delinquent, we have a total of forfeited to the state. So we've already sent these to our tax sale. Nobody purchased them. They are forfeited to the state and eligible for an auditor sale and or the land bank to take. Most of these are vacant lots. We have well over 500, close to 600 properties that are forfeited. And out of that is almost $8 million in delinquent taxes of properties that are just sitting there.
And that's an important thing I forgot to mention. The land bank, why land banks were created, was we were given the special tool to take ownership of properties that were foreclosed and to the state of Ohio. So we are the only entity that can go and take those properties without it going back to some form of sale once it's gone through the sheriff's sales. Sorry, Mindy.
And since we began this initiative in September, from our third billing for our delinquency tax billing and our tax lien certificates, sharing with folks that they had 30 days to pay us full or start a delinquent contract, or else their 2-year plus collection debt will be sold to a tax lien company as a collector. So they have a second chance to make that payment with the tax lien collector, but they have to pay their current taxes with the treasurer's office. But the figure we brought in since the 1st of September through yesterday was $1,241,921.85. So that's our initiative. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself and Mindy. That's our focus, getting our tax dollars so we don't have blight in neighborhoods, and those demo costs go back on the tax bill that we're charged with. We want to clean up our neighborhoods, make people responsible, especially those landowners who are renting out their properties, not upkeeping them, and not paying the taxes. So that is our focus.
Excellent. Brian, is there anything else?
That's the only
How
work
about
session
comments
item.
from commissioners?
I would just like to thank all of you for all the work you're doing. We've turned a couple of big corners. It's nice to get out of being exclusively in demolition and begin to see some building in this city. And I'm pleased with that. And the land bank has made that possible. And we appreciate your willingness to collaborate with the city and work with us. Pam, to your office, thank you for pursuing some of these deadbeat tax payers who are not paying their fair share. I think it's important to understand that when school districts pass bond issues, the bond gets paid. And if somebody isn't paying their fair share, understand the tax rate goes up on all the rest of us because the bond must be paid in absolute dollars. So for those who are cheating and not paying their taxes, they are imposing a tax on all the rest of us. So it's important that everybody chip in, particularly as Pam pointed out, 67% of the property taxes, the real estate taxes, in general, go to the schools. This is our investment in our future, not only here in Springfield, but all across Clark County. So this is very important, and I appreciate that you're willing to take this on in your office and try to get some of these deadbeat taxpayers to pay up and pay their fair share and or get this property back online so we can do something with it. So thank you all very, very much. I really appreciate it. I know my colleagues do too.
Absolutely. It's great to see new projects that'll bring new life into some of these areas that only benefits the neighborhoods. So thank you for your work.
Ethan, I appreciate your leadership. It's a very technical job, and it's one that you have to stay the course and keep searching and looking for grants. So I do enjoy being on this in this group and as a director with you all, and I appreciate the passion you all bring to the table for sure. Is there a motion to adjourn the work session? Thanks so much for being here.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry. Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. The formal meeting of the City Commission is called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Here.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mrs. Houston,
Here.
Mrs. Tackett,
Here.
Mr. Rue.
Here. Please stand for the invocation and pledge. Father, I just ask that you bring peace to our city tonight, God. I ask that you give us wisdom to lead this city in your name.
one nation, under God, indivisible.
Is there a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. Dr. Estrop?
Mr. Mayor, I request a point of personal privilege. The city school district, Springfield City School District, has a renewal levy on this ballot. It hasn't received a lot of attention, but it's very important. It's a renewal levy. And what that means is the school district, if the voters approve the renewal, will be allowed to continue to collect, as they have in the past, the 7 mills prescribed in this levy. Often you'll see signs that say this is not a tax increase. The rate will remain the same. For those interested in the cost, the millage is applied to 35% of a property owner's assessed valuation. So somebody with a $100,000 home is going to continue to pay about $245 a year. So it's a pretty good bargain. If we don't pass it, then clearly the school district will be in a position to have to start using some of its reserves or reduce programs or a little of both. So I want to make a motion, if I can, Mr. Mayor, that this city commission go on record as supporting the Springfield City School District renewal levy, and that we urge the people of Springfield to also support it.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Seconded by Ms. Crystal.
Thank you.
Moved by
Thank
Dr.
you.
Estrop. Are there any other comments from commissioners? I wholeheartedly support this effort. Okay. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes, just a point of interest, this is a resolution. Once again, this is not an ordinance or law. This was a resolution of support for the levy. Okay. Before we move into audience comments, I'm going to read as their city statement. The city commission remains to be committed to creating a meeting environment that allows civil and constructive dialogue as we work together on the challenges facing our community. Tonight, we will continue to have public comment period at the beginning of our formal meeting. Those wishing to speak must fill out a comment card at the table located just outside the forum doors. No new comment cards will be accepted 15 minutes after roll call for the formal meeting. Failure to complete this card with the information requested will result in being ineligible to speak at this meeting. Speakers who reside in Clark County will be the only individuals invited to speak and must present either a driver's license or state-issued ID. If a speaker is found knowingly to provide false information on a public comment card, it will result in disqualification from speaking at this meeting or the next meeting. After the public comment period, we will hold the city commission comment period to provide opportunity for commissioners to respond to public comments as we actively listen to you. We will also ask the city manager and to have staff answer questions posed during public comment period that do not require additional research. Questions that require additional research will be followed up in the next couple of days. The persons asking questions will be contacted provided they've given all their information on the card. All questions not answered during the meeting will be posted on the city's website prior to the next city commission meeting. Again, we want to create an environment for a conducive environment for constructive dialogue, and we will continue to learn and involve in this process. After the comment period, we will take a 5-minute intermission before proceeding into our legislative agenda of the meeting. Due to heightened security, we ask that you not approach the dais or members of the audience after this meeting. We'll go ahead and begin with our comment cards. You each will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will ask Diane Daniels to begin our time of comment. Diane Daniels, 40 Hedgley.
I'm going to start with a PSA. This is from Annette. She didn't bring her ID, so she wasn't able to fill out a card. She would like to thank all of those who contributed to the blanket and glove drive that we had down at Walmart. We are going to do another collection on November 9th. We will extend the hours from 3 to 5. The same needs of our homeless remain the same. They need blankets, tarps, and winter gear. And tentatively scheduled, there will be a homeless Thanksgiving dinner the 24th, and that's going to be put together by citizens of Springfield. Details to follow.
Okay, and did you say that'd be at Walmart on Bechtel?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay. Now for me. I asked a simple question in reference to a portion of a document on the city government webpage last week and the week before regarding authorship or oversight of said document, and word for word, this was the response I got. Word for word, quote, the facts section was compiled by utilizing various data points and presentations that have been presented, whether at commission meetings or in other group meetings. The challenges the city faced came from the presentation that the health commissioner provided to us at a city commission meeting and talked about the various challenges of the immigration issue. I asked a who question, not a how. The health commissioner admitted during his presentation on July 16th that the data he was using was outdated and based solely on his personal interactions with our guests rather than on any objective or collective data. Who wrote your copy? Did this individual simply use the same 5 key challenges for a citywide presentation with the exception of one notification relying solely on the health commissioner's opinions without any actual investigative objective research to corroborate the challenge to Springfield being the racism and intolerance of citizens as alleged? Where is his objective data that supports his claim that is now yours? Without objective data, the claim published in a city document is not only baseless, but also borders on being both slanderous and defamatory when describing citizens who merely oppose your viewpoints or contradict the viewpoints of others in the community writ large. If there is no actual objective data to corroborate these allegations, they were merely based on observations, opposing rhetoric, or gut instinct, then both you and the health commissioner should render apologies to the citizens of Springfield for patently false allegations. Talk to your law director.
Thank you. Gary Armstrong, 103 East Ward Street.
How are you? I know you missed me. I ask for public request information all the time. I was going to tell Sarah, and I didn't recognize you. Looked different from your picture. That I feel like I'm getting slow walk, which is probably pretty obviously true. And obviously true. When I asked the question in the request, which I think Cindy Phillips one of the meetings I missed said they had the information for her. I'd like to ask her what information she received, because the information I received by way of a PDF or whatever type of file that's called said that 700,360 was all they answered. Well, that's lacking, what, 340? Where's that at? They said the 360 went to pay for the demolition. Well, that still jumps up the cost of that trash property to $2 million. And there was $75,000 mentioned, said for fire. I asked, what was that about? No answer on that question. You know, that law says you answer the questioner with truthfulness. And being referred to a meeting for the truth isn't my answer. I don't want to be referred to John Doe on the corner for my information. I'm asking the law department to give me the information that is factual and true. Anything else is not true. I'm a little tired of it. 2.5 years I've been hearing this. What Little John was talking about, I didn't get it while I was signing my card, is our LLCs, which I've mentioned many times, that you're letting taxpayer dollar not get, are they a big part of not paying their taxes? I would say so. I, like most people, have to pay mine to the mortgage company to make sure they're paid. If you get behind one tax period, then you ought to give them a notice. We're shutting off your water and any service, city services. You could do that through your power of emergencies, and I've asked you about it. So 360, you didn't answer that. I'd like the real answer of where the rest of the 700,000 was. And I'd like to know what Cindy Phillips was told. If it's 2 different answers, that's just more of a blatant example of the untruthfulness I'm getting from my city representatives. And when you guys answered after I left the meeting and said, I think you were making money off this deal, everybody answered in a row except one man didn't answer that he has LLCs. So that tells me a lot too. So the truth and what happened and why, and the guy, I had his name written down, it's in my notes, asked a year ago when O'Neill was still here how we got a appraisal, and was it local? It wasn't local, it was out of Toledo. And it happened to be a classmate of somebody I'm looking at. That ties into overpaying, and what person from this group
Thank you for your comments. Glenda
Set
Bailey,
foot
732 Mound
inspecting
Street.
those hotels?
Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Springfield is undergoing the hard times created by weak men who should never have had an ounce of power to begin with. Haitian Flag Day was meant to send a message to the citizens of Springfield, a message that Haitians are now dominant over the feckless, weak, submissive local men in power. It was a declaration of war on Springfield, and Brian Heck gleefully encouraged it. President Trump's statement that Haitians were eating dogs and cats drew worldwide attention to what the 20,000-man Haitian militia has done to Springfield. The Haitian Times advertised a gathering on September 14th at 5 p.m. called Ohio Haitians Speak at the Haitian Community Center on South Yellow Spring Street. Around 10:30 a.m. on that morning, Springfield began receiving a number of bomb threats, which closed down schools and city and county offices for days. The threats caused the cancellation of Culture Fest and prompted security measures that probably cost the taxpayers millions. The Haitian Times then made an announcement that the gathering was canceled. However, that was an outright lie. The event went on as planned because they knew there were no valid bomb threats. Later, Mike DeWine admitted that the threats were hoaxes and that they had originated from overseas. Who benefited from the bomb threat hoaxes? Haitians. It distracted the media from Haitians killing geese at Snyder Park and away from the disappearance of the local stray cat populations. It imposed false accusations against Trump and Trump voters. It gave the Haitian Bridge Alliance unjust reason to file criminal charges against Trump and Vance with a seldom used Ohio law. And it stopped Trump from holding a rally in Springfield. The Haitians' hateful plot worked exactly the way they intended it to work. I believe that Haitians perpetrated the bomb threats for political gain, but as with all hoaxes, the truth will come out. And unless Jamie McGregor can prove who made the alleged threats to him and his family, his allegations have no credibility either. Jesse Smollett, another black racist, was convicted of perpetrating a hoax about Trump and his voters. I want to know when the criminals who created all the bomb threat hoaxes will be charged and prosecuted, because you know who they are. Thank you.
Larry Ricketts, 1736 North Fountain Boulevard. Want to remind all if you could silence your phones, that would be great. Speakers, direct your comments directly to the mayor and through the commission. Thank you. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to commend Springfield City Commission for your public service and doing the job that is more often than not thankless and recently become extremely stressful. Most of us in the community appreciate the job you do and the hard work City Manager Heck does with his excellent staff. Tonight, I want to get back to some business that the city is actually responsible for. I realize this may sound boring and mundane, but maybe getting back to mundane is a good thing. However, this does intertwine with the discussion in these chambers a few weeks ago about driver's education classes and a recent study released concerning the uptick in pedestrian deaths in Ohio. My wife and I, who live on North Fountain, enjoy our daily walks up North Fountain and through the Ridgewood area. And our strolls almost always take us to the crosswalk at North Fountain and Broadway. Now, most Springfield residents know that Fountain Avenue can be very busy in the morning and late in the afternoon hours when people headed to work, headed home. During these times, that crosswalk gets particularly dangerous. Even though there are traffic signs posted on both the north and south sides in bright fluorescent yellow paint showing that there is indeed a crosswalk ahead, most people driving in both directions apparently did not take driver's education classes when they were younger. I did take driver's education classes at North High School when I was 15. And one of the very first things I was taught was that pedestrians have the right of way in a crosswalk. I can't tell you the exact number, but it's a lot of the times we've started across that crosswalk, got halfway across, and can't go any further because of traffic coming in both directions. And we have to stop and wait for the traffic to go by before we can finish our walk across the street. Many of the times these drivers see us walking across the crosswalk and actually speed up. They see us and they go, I can get ahead of these people. And they fly right by us. And most of the time, they're close enough that we can see inside the car. We can see the driver. And they look at us and they know that they're in the wrong. They're in a hurry. They need to get to work. They need to get wherever they're going, to Winans, whatever. And I want to say something about that because I can tell you, I'm looking at all these drivers, they are not Haitian drivers. A few weeks ago, we witnessed 3 children at that crosswalk that were stuck in the middle. They had started across, and the traffic that was coming north would not let them finish, get across. So we politely asked the city to improve the safety of that crosswalk. Adding solar power flashing lights at the crosswalk with a push button would be nice. Second thing we think you should do is...
Your time is up.
I'm
Thank you for
sorry.
coming.
Thank
Ken Seelig, 2040 Oakdale Road.
It's me, Bannon. I'm back. Been dubbed the Mario of Clark County or whatever on the internet. I hope this video goes viral. Tonight I represent the Highway Hikers Motorcycle Club. I'm a proud member for more years than I care to even say. An old guy. This last Sunday we had our 46th annual toy run. 46 consecutive years we have done our toy run. On our first toy run, we had 17 motorcycles. On the last one, which was last Sunday, we had 3,015. We raised $11,000 in cash for the kids of Clark County. You can't imagine what the last 2 months of my life has been like. If you tip the Facebook, go look at it. I finally made one today that said, for the love of God, stop. The negativity in 46 years of doing that toy run, I have never had as much negative BS as I did this year. And how sad is that? Over 3,000 children got Christmas last year as a result of that toy run. And I'm not saying this out of selfishness. Anybody that knows me knows that it's never been about me. It's never been about the hikers. It's always been about the kids. It's the kids. And I don't care. Tall one, short one, scat one, skinny, whatever. Any kid you can describe. You know, if they're a kid and they need Christmas, the hikers are going to see to it that they get Christmas. That's just how we roll. I have to say that, yes, the logistics have changed. There's not just 17 motorcycles. We come through here with 3,015. Did anybody in here, by show of hands, happen to see the display of Love and Leather that came through this city on Sunday? It's amazing, isn't it? We're going to continue to do it. I can promise you some things are going to change next year. And with that, I'm telling you, we're going back old school. We're going to protect intersections. And if we get citations for that, so be it. We're willing to do that. We were told by, not this administration, a prior administration, that we weren't allowed to do that. We weren't allowed to block the intersections. Well, guess what? We had one go awry. You know, somebody got impatient and crashed through, and a biker went down that had his wife on the back who was carrying a baby. You know what I mean? We understand motorcycling is dangerous, but come on, guys, it's a parade. It's for the kids.
And thank you for your comments. I'm sorry that it's happened. Devin Hendricks, 828 Wilson Avenue.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, I just want to start off by saying, hate has to stop, and like, I just don't understand. This is my city. I love it. I'm bringing this big time producer down here to tell the truth, the real story, not all these lies that's being spewed about these beautiful people. You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't we talk about the lady that lied about it? And shout out to her for, clearing that up. Or about the guy who happened to be of a Caucasian shooting the ducks. You know what I mean? Why aren't we talking about that? Y'all want to still talk about these lies about these people. It's crazy. And we ain't even thinking about the kids in school, though, what they got to go through. If I see all these people, the grown-ups hating, like they hating, what is the kids doing? What are y'all teaching in y'all's homes? Like, so all I got to say is the truth will come out. It is coming out. And, man, come on, make Springfield great.
Thank you. Robert Spinelli, 921 Gothic Street.
Several times I've asked, never heard back. Only one of you on the commission ever sat down with me, tried to answer some of the questions that I had. Like, where was the money going that DeWine gave? Where is some of the grants that you could have gotten to start taking care of the city? I do want to thank you, Tracy Tack, for sitting. I get no answers from Brian. I get no answers from any of you other commissioners. So why are you not representing Springfield? Why are you not answering the citizens' question? Maybe we don't belong in your guys' group. Your buddy system, it's going to come to an end this next. So I hope you keep that in mind. Because why are we asking questions over and over and never getting answers to them? You guys have answers. You just don't want to tell people. So what is it you're holding back? All I got to say.
I want to make sure that everybody knows that after comments, we will answer the questions that we can. Wes Babian, 2121 Olympic Street. Just right there is fine. Thank you. Sure you pull the mic towards you, please. Pull the mic down towards you, please. Thank you.
Eru. I wish to express my appreciation to the City Commission, city leadership for the efforts to hear and respond to the issues raised because of the incredible, unprecedented circumstances with the coming of our new neighbors from Haiti. Further, the outstanding and positive support and goodwill from within our community, and frankly, from many quarters well beyond our city and county, is gratifying. The resilience that I have witnessed is encouraging. Further, our Haitian friends are taking outstanding initiatives to encourage their constituents to find the way in a new culture and setting. It appears that a future of promise and growth is on the horizon for us all. I hope that that promise and growth can be realized. I affirm the belief and commitment on the part of our new neighbors to what is best for this community, for our state, and for our county. It is the best of the American way of life. Thank
you. Jessica Schaefer, 511 North Claremont.
Hello. So shockingly, after the last two meetings, I was yet again targeted online by the cosplay neo-Nazis, along with other people who chose to speak out here. I mean, they're meeting my expectations and go on being little Hosenscheisers, guys, whatever. I don't really care about boys who cry online, little sad boys who wear costumes and cry online. I want to talk to my community members here, and people are also watching. I want to address the fact that there's an appeal to emotion and a confirmation bias that runs through every statement made by you guys who come here to spread internet memes and scare stories in your 3 minutes of hate. Y'all should really take a couple minutes and check yourself when you see something that just has to be true online, because it confirms your bias and pulls at your emotions. You willingly regurgitate lies and parrot whitewashed talking points and rhetoric that were birthed from the literal neo-Nazi and white supremacist corners of the web that are also word-for-word echoes of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. You are being manipulated and used as a tool. Your hate and fear are benefiting those who wish to destroy our community and our country. You are allowing vultures and con artists and grifters to pull your strings, all for clicks and likes and their benefit, not yours. I am not saying you are a neo-Nazi, a fascist, or a racist. The neo-Nazis, the fascists, and the racists are saying you are one of them and you are useful to them. I said it before, hate movements always need a scapegoat. Having Republican after your ballot, your white skin, your willingness to be their pawn, spread their lies, and give them ignorant sound bites used for marketing and recruitment will not save you. Fascists and hate movements always end up eating their own, and you don't matter to them. You are fodder that they use in their BS culture wars, and they will turn on you in a heartbeat when they need a new target. And I implore you to wake up before you are on the menu. On real stuff, do I talk here or the zoning commission about the removal of the reporting form for potholes online? And also vote for the city and the CTC levies, because our kids need education so we don't continue to have this.
Terry, was that Melissa Skinner, 924 Grant Street.
So my starting point tonight was going to talk again about the victim's advocate and how hard it is to get a phone number week after week and still no answer. But as I was sitting here this evening, I got a text from my neighbor that said the district attorney's office just called her this late in the evening and that the advocate would be calling her tomorrow. So hopefully I will not be standing before you 2 weeks from now asking again why there's no answers from the Springfield Police Department on new charges from the minor destroying her property, and why a paid position for a victim's advocate, I'm sure she's a paid position, you cannot get a phone call after months and months and months of waiting. Maybe we need to hire a new advocate. I also want to address the passion one commissioner had 2 weeks ago about our teenagers and the driving program for them. I wish the same passion was addressed for the adults illegally driving that we deal with daily. Someone I knew was in the courthouse on Monday and was just amazed at the amount of people that did not have a license and insurance and stood before the court. Most was not the first time, but was told, "Don't come before me again." Why are we not doing something about this the first time? Why are we allowing the second time and the third offense and sending them away as if the fourth offense is not going to happen? I did not ask race because to me, I don't care who you are. I don't care what color you are or anything else. It's about no license and no insurance. And if you don't have those, then you don't drive. If this is the law and we're supposed to all follow it, then why is it not being enforced? I would love not to renew my license here in another month, and I sure would not like to pay my insurance by the year, every year, as it's going up. So what are we going to do to hold the courts accountable for all people? I'm going to ask, since the last meeting, what solutions have happened and if any new officers have been hired. What is the plan to get them hired? We cannot keep going on, we're trying and we've tried. What do we need to do to make this happen, and what have we done in the past that's not working? I'm sure as more gets hired, some will retire out, so the problem will keep existing. So the plan needs to happen, and it needs to be a great one. I don't want to see our services taxed for health care or anything else where people have to wait in line if they need help through the Human Services Department or anything else. We all need to follow the same laws. I was always taught when I was younger that being ignorant of the law or a rule did not leave
Melissa,
me
your time is
blameless.
up. Thank you.
So we need
Terry
to all follow
Atkins,
rules.
2721 Selma. Sir, if you want to come up. No, you're not, you cannot. Is there a Terry Atkins here? And as you don't disrupt the meeting, you can actually go ahead and leave too. Sir, if you could just leave with that officer, if you guys could just leave. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, he is. Hey, go ahead.
All right. First, I'd like to start with what Barron had said. Part of that for quite a few years. And that accident, that covers a very large part of the county. That accident happened one block from the police station. That's just uncalled for. Totally uncalled for. Another thing I'd like to mention, it's been not very transparent. It was brought up to my attention at the last meeting that all the money that was spent at the executive inn, it's now up for sale. We haven't heard a thing about that. Why? That's just, again, throwing money down a bad situation. A message has come to light that there is a high school in the county that has sent messages to their teachers. Do not give any of our new neighbors anything below a C, because the first 2 or 3 years are supposed to be a language learning time, not grading them, which is basically just terrible for those kids. They need to be held accountable so they learn. Don't just give them a free pass. And there was some question about how valid that was, and the things were double checked. It brought as valid, which is terrible. Again, they're just being dumped on us. It's a shame. And the final thing I'm going to bring up is, why do we have to keep hearing this week after week after week? It's just, why don't somebody do something? Don't just keep putting it off. And that's what we hear, lack of transparency from up there. You're either not telling us everything or you're not saying anything at all and hope that nobody finds out. It's just crazy. And it's a shame. I'm still getting reporters calling me on a regular basis from out of the country. I had a message yesterday from a guy from Israel wanting to know what's going on here. That's pretty bad. Israel's having their own share of problems, and they're concerned about Springfield, Ohio. Just like I heard earlier today, in 4 months, things are going to be changing and ICE is coming. Be ready.
Craig Foley, 2121 Olympic Street.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission. I would like to thank all of you for your hard work and dedication during this very difficult time. It's been a hard time for all of us, but I think especially for you in your leadership position. Also, I'd like to extend my thanks to our chief of police and the head of our fire department and our safety forces. Again, they've gone above and beyond during a very difficult time. And also, I'd like to extend my thanks to all of our educators, all of our people in our schools, our bus drivers, our aides, our custodians, our teachers, our administrators. Again, a very challenging time, and they have stepped in and kept the best interest of our kids in mind. When I moved here to Springfield in 1990, over 30 years ago, people told me about the streetlights had not been turned on for a period of time, and trash collection had stopped for a period of time. And really, for many years, it seemed like Springfield was stuck. And I really feel like in the past 5 years, past 7 years, we've become unstuck. We're finally moving forward. We're growing with new neighbors, new population. We're building new things. We're building new homes. We're attracting new businesses. And as a resident of Springfield, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to live here and participate in these positive things. So again, thank you for all that you do. Also, I welcome our new neighbors, and I feel like we're really on the verge of moving forward and doing many positive things. Thank you.
Thank you. Claudia Fett, 806 South Fountain Avenue.
I also would like to thank the mayor, the city staff, the commissioners, the police chief, the fire department, so many services in this city. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. I greatly appreciate, I hear many positive things about things that are happening within our city and welcoming our new neighbors and helping them transition. And I appreciate that greatly. I would also like to state how much I appreciate Commissioner Estrop's recent focus on getting driver's education back into the public schools in Ohio. I recently learned that funding for driver's education had been eliminated and that families had to pick up that burden in cost and time. Within the last few weeks, I saw the aftermath of 2 accidents, one at South Limestone and East Euclid, the second at West Pleasant and South Fountain Avenue. Both accidents had young adult females as the drivers, high school age folks. A recent Springfield News Sun article stated that, quote, Public Safety Director Andy Wilson pointed out that the state included money in the last budget cycle to increase the capacity to offer driver's education, end quote. I'm extremely happy to learn of this funding focus for driver's education in the public high schools, and am happy to get the word out and do whatever is needed to assist with this important possible improvement for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of our public comment. I'd like to ask Director Wilson to come up. He's going to share some updates and stats with the efforts that the state has made in our traffic area and speak to us about a couple other things. Director Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Rue, members of the City Council. You asked me to come give an update on the enforcement surge that the State Highway Patrol has done in the city. That surge has been going on since September 11th. And really that's a proactive attempt, actually at the request of the mayor and the City Council, to come in and help with some of these traffic issues that you've seen in order, again, to free up your officers to handle the calls that they have to handle, the calls that they have holding. Since September 11th of this year through October 21st, the Ohio State Highway Patrol in the city of Springfield have conducted 1,167 traffic stops. Now, I talked about this last time I was here. This is data driven. So we were focusing on areas where we knew there were problems with excessive speed, where we knew there were problems with crashes, and other driving infractions. So really the focus has been, this isn't a gotcha, we want you to know where we're doing this. The focus has been Limestone all the way from Home Road down to Leffels Lane, east and west on Columbia and Main, and then we kind of box the city up north on Home, going all the way across from east to west, west to east, and then coming down the bottom again, Leffels Lane. There's also some increased enforcement on Selma because there's a lot of speed in the Selma area as well. The troopers have done a really good job of staying, again, out of the neighborhoods. They're not in the neighborhoods. They're focusing on these areas with excessive speed. Out of that 1,167 stops, 336 warnings have been given to folks for various potential infractions, and 831 traffic tickets have been written. In addition to that, just in the time of the surge, our troopers have made 51, and this is in the city limits, they've made 51 OVI arrests in the city limit. And we're just focusing on those areas of enforcement. That's a pretty staggering number when you talk about the danger that poses to folks driving on the streets. So that initiative continues, and I actually had the opportunity to meet with some of the folks, some of our troopers who were doing that initiative earlier this week, late last week. One of the things that they talked about was just the surprise in, they thought they'd come in and have some speedings and have some reckless ops. They were shocked at the speed. They were really, they talked about, some of these, Limestone really talking about is basically, they call it a drag strip, some spots. So, they've been really engaged in trying to slow people down. Their anecdotal observations were that they think they are starting to slow people down. We're still having crashes, and they're still pushing enforcement in those areas, but they do feel that they're starting to see people slow down, at least in those areas a little bit. And obviously that's what we want to see. A couple other issues that I think are relevant to this meeting and some of the comments that I've heard where I may be uniquely positioned to answer some of the questions that were raised. First of all, the number one public safety concern with the Haitian residents here in Springfield is driving and driving safe. So to that end, we've been putting resources into the community to try to help with driver's education, adult driver's education. And those of you who have heard me speak before, there's no requirement if you're over the age of 18, there's no requirement to go through driver's education. Which, again, if you've been in America your whole life, you've been riding on our roads, at least you have some degree of familiarity with how the rules and norms work. For the new Haitian residents, again, it's much more foreign. So we are trying to get some services, and actually these services will be available for everyone. It's not just Haitians, but we are working to get some adult driver curriculum in. Getting some of that is going to be Haitian Creole instructed. Obviously, that's going to be Haitian specific, but it would be the same class that would be available. So today, as a matter of fact, we did a train the trainer class. Clark State pulled up and partnered with us. We put some people through that class. They're not certified driving instructors, but they now have some basic education on what to teach when they're working with folks. Again, what we don't want is the Haitian residents here relying on the only people they know who are other Haitians who may not really be good drivers in and of themselves. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to arm people with the skills to go out and teach some of this stuff in the community. We're not making them paid driver's instructors, but we are trying to give them the skills to make all of us safer on the road. So that happened today. We're going to continue to push that. The people who went through the training today will now go back to their churches, they'll go back to their community group, and they'll teach others the skills that they learned today. So that's something we're doing. I do want to talk for a second. I heard a comment about the bomb. And again, as the Director of Public Safety for the state, when the bomb threats were coming into the city of Springfield, we were very engaged in responding to that and trying to mitigate that. I want to tell you, foreign actors, enemies of America, people who hate America, countries who hate America, and you just watch the news, you'll be able to figure out who they are. They frequently interfere, and they use the internet to interfere in communities that are in distress. I saw it personally when I was in East Palestine. I know that it happened in the summer of 2020. Again, these are foreign actors who are using the internet to turn Americans against them and disrupt services. And it happened. And I saw it right here in Springfield. And again, I'm not going to name. We worked with the FBI to look at what these countries that were sending these bomb threats in. I'm not going to name them, but you can guess who they are. And what they did is they tried to shut down our schools, our government offices, our businesses, so that we would turn on each and that we would blame each other for and blame the Haitians, or the fact that the Haitians are here, for these problems. And that's what they do. And look, you sit back and look at it, it works a lot of times. We fall victim to ourselves. We allow these foreign governments to kind of puppet us using the internet. I can tell you without a doubt, again, having been involved in this, and I'm doing this and I'm saying this in response to the comment that I heard earlier. Look, and all of the bomb threats that came in that period of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we were having all the bomb threats, none of them were initiated by Haiti. I can tell you that, right? So we did have some threats that were locally initiated, and one was out in the county that was investigated, and there was an arrest made. There was a couple other threats that were investigated where arrests were made. But again, the overwhelming majority of these threats were coming from enemies of America. So I think, again, it's important for you to know that. It was important for us to know that, because as we assessed, every one of them we responded. Every one of them we had to make sure that actually it was safe, but it allows us to triage them a little bit when they were coming in. So we did that as well. A couple other things that I'll point out. Again, if I'm going long, you just give me the hook and I'll stop off. I'll step out. Somebody mentioned the money that the governor had pledged to the city of Springfield. The majority of that money was for primary care. So again, just the influx of 10,000 plus, 50,000 plus.
Primary health care. Right?
Primary health care. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The influx of just the number of people into this community has put an incredible strain on primary care. You guys were already short primary care providers to begin with. So the governor rushed in that money to really increase capacity for folks to have primary care. The resources that he put. So there's a mobile clinic, started out at the health district, and now I think this week it was over at not Eller United, but United Senior Services. That's moving around the community. That's available for anybody who can use it. And the idea is, again, to relieve pressure on your existing primary care infrastructure. Ultimately, he's going to use that. We're going to use that money to open a permanent clinic here, a new permanent clinic that provides primary care, again, to relieve pressure to deal with those just basic medical issues. So I wanted to address that. The final thing I would talk about, I heard somebody talk about the no operator license and the driving under suspension, and the fact that they had been down at court, and there's really not much going on in the enforcement side of that. I'll tell you this: we had a meeting with the judges today. Their hands are really kind of handcuffed. Our laws are very weak on driving under suspension and driving with no operator license. They're just not much that the courts can do. These laws have been weakened over the last few years in the interest really of allowing people to transport themselves back and forth to work. If you want that change, if we want that change, then you got to go to the General Assembly. They're the ones who are responsible for tightening those laws, which would give not only law enforcement, would give the courts more power to address these issues in a more proactive, I won't say punitive, but just give them a little more teeth to deal with this stuff. So again, that's Bernie Willis, your state rep here, and that's probably going to be Kyle Kaler. If we're being honest, it's probably going to be Kyle Kaler who's going to be your state senator, or probably going to be your state senator. So those are the folks that you need to talk to with respect to that. And Mayor, I think that is all I have.
Thank you, Director Wilson.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. We'll have comments from commissioners followed by answers to questions that were asked this evening before we take an intermission. Comments from commissioners. Who would like to go first?
Sure.
Commissioner Tackett.
Before Andy heads out, I just want to thank you, Andy, for coming to these meetings and clarifying some of this information. Andy Wilson, calling out Andy Wilson. Thank you for coming. It's really been great having you here representing the state in a greater way to explain some of the concerns that we have as a local community. so that they can also hear and you're educating all of us in some of these issues so that we can speak to it when we go out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tackett. Yeah, the governor was passionate about making sure that he had a cabinet level director on the ground with the local government officials, with your first responders, so that we can communicate more directly. Again, so many times in these cases, the state is far away, or the state seems far away. Governor DeWine is passionate about making sure that he has his representatives down on the ground, not only to effectively communicate or answer questions, but to quickly leverage resources. And I feel like we've all worked together very well in leveraging those resources and answering those questions. And actually, the governor focuses on what the issues are with respect to the city.
Thank you, Andy. I have just a few more things to continue with. I want to thank the Highway Hikers for their annual support by doing the toy run for kids in the community. It is appreciated. And I also want to bring attention to two community initiatives. Sheltered Inc., in collaboration with Leadership Clark County and the Springfield Rotary Club, is leading a Wrapped in Warmth Winter Essentials Drive until November 12th. Items such as coats, hats, flashlights, socks, and more can be donated at Leadership Clark County's office, 20 South Limestone Street, between 9 and 12 p.m. I also posted it on my commissioner Facebook page if you're looking for more details. And then the last thing I want to mention, I want to recognize and thank the collaborative efforts of the city, Sheltered Inc., the fire department, police department, Nehemiah Foundation, the health department, and other organizations that conducted an on-site assessment with our community's homeless population last week. Their dedication has strengthened my commitment to advocating for their needs. Thank you.
Dr. Estrop?
Treasurer Littlejohn, I wrote Representative Willis about the House Bill 168 legislation, and he indicated that he, as you had shared with me, met with you and was supportive of the legislation. So I think that's good news for all of us. It closes a couple of big holes that have allowed some of the LLCs to escape, and this new legislation will close those holes. I also want to speak to Director Wilson because Representative Willis also said he was supportive of looking at expansion of driver education, not only in the public schools, but for adults, and realized that there were obvious financial implications for this. But I was pleased that he recognized the need to at least begin looking into this. And Director Wilson, thank you again for being here, for speaking with us. And you may want to follow up with Representative Willis in terms of looking at some legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment? Some answers, Brian? I
Yes.
guess first I want to say, hang on, I do have a comment. It's hard for me to see people who have, and I appreciate those that have stayed, but people that have brought significant complaints to the microphone and leave after they're done. Some of the most significant, the person already left. And I will say that from my position, speaking for myself, there is no reason for a lack of transparency within the job that I do and the people that I get to work with up here. There's no reason for it. It's not a part of our deal. We want to be completely transparent. Secondly, it is also very difficult to have other people stand up here and personally accuse commissioners of wrongdoing, which is absolutely false, borderline slanderous, and borderline absolutely criminal. And especially when a commissioner has made an effort to speak privately to that person and clear the air. So to stand up here at the microphone and just spew lies about the representatives that are on the stage is absolutely wrong and false. Okay? So I'd appreciate if you wouldn't do it. But that's just what I'm going to say. I appreciate you wouldn't do it. Everybody standing up here, sitting up here, wants to do the best they can for the city. And that's our job. We all make less than $15,000 a year. And we're all trying to serve the city. So all of our salaries, you cannot put $60,000 together. And we're just trying to serve the city that we get to be a part of right now. And I just want to say that. That's from my heart, and that is the truth. Now, what we're going to try to do is what we promised in the beginning of the meeting, and thank you, Director Wilson, for providing additional answers, is that our staff is going to answer the questions they can. And the questions they cannot, they will get with you because everybody that the cards that I have written their addresses and phone numbers legibly tonight. Excellent. So you've done that, which means you'll get an answer. If you do not get an answer, my email is rru@springfieldohio.gov. Email me and say, I did not get my answer. And then I'll ask Brian, why not? And well, that's it. That's a fact. That's how it goes, guys. Because we are the board of directors for the city. And these are the high-paid staff members. Yes, high-paid because you've seen their salaries. But these are the people hired to do the job and the experts. So we're going to ask them why not if they haven't answered your question, but they will give you a detailed answer. So now to you, Brian Heck.
Yes. Thank you, commissioners. Just starting at the top, and I think most of it we should be able to cover pretty well tonight in the meeting. As far as it relates to the first item, I will directly speak with the health commissioner to further clarify the source of the data from his slides. Again, I know specifically from the question that was asked last meeting, that specific section came from the slides of the presentation at work session from our health commissioner. And so I will seek further clarity on where that data came from him. On the second item was related to public records, kind of in general, but then went specifically into the hotel and information provided to Cindy Phillips, who spoke before commission previously. I'm going to have Jill Allen just speak quickly to public records in general, and then ask Katie and Jason to speak specifically to the items of the insurance, the appraisal, and so forth.
So the law department handles all public records requests with the exception of those that go directly to the police department. Mr. Armstrong, I know that you have a public records request that we just responded to. I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow about some of your questions tonight too.
So in response to the amount of the insurance that the city received, which was also Ms. Phillips' question that I restated at the following meeting, the city received 2 separate insurance checks totaling roughly $360,000. That was 2 separate checks. So we at the time, were a member of the Ohio Municipal Joint Self-Insurance Pool. So the total loss, which reminding everyone that was less than 30% in one of 4 buildings on the property at the Villager, was $360,451.91. The city has a $75,000 deductible. So we received the $285,000 check from the Fireman's Insurance Fund, which is who the city was insured through. Due to our participation, our membership in the Ohio Municipal Joint Self-Insurance Pool, we received a check for our deductible as well, which was the benefits of that membership, to receive that full $360,000. The cost to fully demo was around that amount. The insurance proceeds were deposited directly into the city's general fund, which can be used for any proper public purpose.
Thank you. I'll speak a bit to the appraisal process. Initially, the acquisition of that facility involved a specific stream of federal funding that required specific licensures under the Uniform Relocation Act. So in order to ensure that we had proper appraisal companies, we released a request for qualifications. This elicited responses from some firms. I know there was a comment about the firm being from Toledo. They're from Dublin, Ohio. They have worked for the city for quite some time doing a lot of our appropriation work as far as roadway acquisition, parcel modification, all that. The individuals that we utilized in that process were specifically licensed to do URA appraisals, and that's the firm that we had used. So they were qualified under our RFQ, as any appraisal company could have been that had those same qualifications.
Thank you, Jason. Third, Mr. Ricketts, I'll have Chris Moore follow up with you to talk a little bit more about specific intersections, crosswalks, and so forth, if that's okay. I know you weren't able to completely finish everything, so I'll have Chris Moore follow up with you outside of the meeting, if that works. Number 4, again, thank you, Andy Wilson, who kind of talked about the funding received from the state. I know we talked about it at the last meeting as well. I think Andy mentioned it and we further clarified. So again, the money that's been received from the state to date, as mentioned, was the schools received some additional funding, specifically focused towards translation services, and they've been able to utilize those to purchase Translate Live devices to be able to place a Translate Live device in every classroom. And so they're able to use those funds that the state gave specifically for that. And then, as Andy talked about, the health department, one of the areas where our resources have been stretched thin is in specifically primary care, but in healthcare in general. And so the $2.5 million that was provided from the governor helps with the mobile clinic that is currently operating and functioning throughout the city, as Andy discussed. And then also in the establishment of an additional primary care clinic somewhere in the city. And I know Health Commissioner Chris Cook is working on that with various partners on how best to execute that in the community and be able to introduce those additional primary care clinic needs. Last week, we also talked a little bit about the additional money. So one, resettlement dollars was mentioned. We are not eligible. The temporary protective status that our Haitian neighbors come into our country, they're not eligible for resettlement dollars. So those are typically dollars with immigration programs that communities that have immigrants come into their community are eligible for some of those resettlement dollars. In this case, we are not. So we're not eligible and have not received any of those funds. And then we continue to work with our various state and federal partners to work to identify sources of funding, both short-term and long-term, to help our community and many different needs, specifically to the resources that have been stretched thin here, but also continuing to advocate, and those are our taxpayer dollars that go to the state and federal government as well. Let's bring as many of those dollars and leverage as many of those dollars back to our community as we can, and that's what we do each and every day and looking for those funds. Where did the form for reporting potholes go on the website? So I want to say, so that form, we were working with a company called iWorks. The CEO just pulled the plug on our software application, which that was the back end of the report of concern. We have an interim. I just searched it on our website. It's buried pretty deep. So I'll work with our staff to have that more prominently displayed, that you can do that service request. It's not as nice as what the report of concern was, but we're also working and have interviewed a couple different companies and solutions to look at adding a more robust report of concern feature to the website. So we are working on that. The next was related to police recruitment. And so on that, so I know I talked at the last meeting that since 2022, we've had 9 separate processes that we've been running, some overlapping. I will say we have interviews scheduled from November 5th to December 19th for 25 different individuals that have come through 2 different processes, one through our traditional civil service, and then this time we also utilize what's called the National Testing Network. And in that, individuals go on and take that test at that national level, and then they select the communities that they want their results sent to. And so we did have 11 individuals that selected Springfield. After polygraph and psych, 10 of those advanced forward. So we, again, have 25 interviews scheduled over the next month and a half with the plans to hopefully hire as many of those officers as possible to plan for our current shortage, but also to plan for those planned retirements that do come up. Again, there is a national recruitment issue. Can't hide behind that exists. It's a struggle for every agency, but we have been working tirelessly. Our HR department, kudos to Natalie Payton and the job that she does to do that, and our team, Derek Nichols, Bo Collins, and Chief Elliott, and the work that they do in trying to recruit quality officers into this community to work and serve this community. And then the last piece was as it related to the Executive Inn. So it is actually not on the market currently. So I know it was mentioned that it's for sale. It's not on the market. Well, it's not currently on the market. We are assessing the next steps with the property, which one of those steps could be putting it on the market and selling that property. But this comes after a contract for an operator of that facility was voted down in August. And so we are assessing what the next steps are with that specific facility. But right now it is currently not on the market.
right, we'll take a recess, then we'll begin our meeting in 3 to 5 minutes.
contract with Garber Electrical Contractors Incorporated for the installation of a structured cabling system for Fire Station Number 6 for an amount not to exceed $91,385. Authorizing the purchase of one 2025 HV507 SFA truck for an amount not to exceed $93,180.72 from Rush Truck Centers through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated to provide CDBG funding for the Health and Safety Repair Program in an amount not to exceed $400,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with the Conscious Connect Community Development Corporation to provide CDBG funding to assist with the open space improvements to 4 community parks in an amount not to exceed $75,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with the Conscious Connect Community Development Corporation to provide CDBG funding to create public improvements for the South Side Incubator located at 515 South Yellow Spring Street in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to purchase with Clark County Land Reutilization Corporation for the sale of certain real property, being 6 parcels located on West Grand Avenue and West Southern Avenue. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Clark County Land Reutilization Corporation to provide American Rescue Plan Act funding for the construction of 8 affordable housing single-family homes on Grand Avenue and Southern Avenue in an amount not to exceed $1 million.
City Manager Heck, is there anything you'd like to explain in first readings?
Yeah, Commission, just to talk to a couple different items, 267-24, that's our partnership agreement or subrecipient agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield. This is the Health and Safety Repair Program. So this is our former emergency repair program that was run from the city, and then we began working with various community partners to fulfill this grant agreement. So this is a 2-year agreement to help carry out the health and safety repair program for various properties that are eligible residential properties throughout the community with our great partner in NHP. The following 26824 and 269-24 again is a great use of our CDBG funds to assist and partner with our subrecipient, Conscious Connect. The first one to upgrade and update various open spaces or pocket parks throughout the community, specifically the Peace Garden on South Lime, Green Environmental Outreach property on South Plum, the Promise Garden on Linden, and the Conscious Connect Family Park on Grand Avenue. And then working with them on the next item, 268-24, if you recall, they took over what I believe was the former Urban Light Ministries building on South Yellow Spring Street, and they're working to establish a Southside Incubator, which will offer small business coaching, working with the Small Business Development Center, offer entrepreneurial space and other activity space. So this is a rehab project of that structure, and again being carried out with our partner Conscious Connect. And then the last two, just to highlight, 270-24 and 271-24, these are the items that were talked about or discussed during our work session and working with the Clark County Land Reutilization Corp. The first one transferring the 6 parcels along West Grand and Southern to the land bank, and then the next one is authorizing that agreement. So one of our commitments from our ARPA dollars was to invest in affordable housing. And so again, investing through this grant agreement to help move along the construction of these 8 single-family homes in this neighborhood.
Comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
I have to admit, I've lost track of the numbers relative to the fire stations. Is this the fire station 6? Is this the one that's going up by the fairgrounds?
Yes, this is located out on South Charleston Pike or State Route 41.
Okay, thank you. And then I look at 266-24. That looks to me like we're buying an international truck.
Yes, that is
But I wanted
correct.
to confirm that.
Yes, so this is a 2025 truck that we will purchase and replace this is the cabin chassis and replace a 2013 snowplow that's utilized in our street maintenance department.
Great. Thank you very much.
I do want to just point out that I am super excited to see the city working with Conscious Connect. It is an amazing organization. I'm very excited and very proud of them.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and proceed with second readings.
Here. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 31.48 acres located along East National Road, Springfield, Ohio, from RPD, Research and Development Park District, to PD, Planned Development District, and adopting regulations for the Melody Parks Planned Development District being 409.3 acres along National Road.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of one 2024 Ford F-550 with upfitting from Rush Truck Centers for an amount not to exceed $133,670 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a mutual termination amendment number 2 to the Airport Vegetation Management Agreement 2021 to 2025 with Jeffrey A. Goodbar.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations with various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and obtaining of services for the city and providing for payments therefore and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a purchase agreement with the Haitian Community Help and Support Center for the sale of certain real property located at 735 West Pleasant Street and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I ask the city manager, maybe the law director, to explain the sale.
Yes, Commission, just to clarify, so 735 West Pleasant, just for everybody, this is former Station 8. So as we know, we located or relocated Station 8 out to the new station on South Limestone Street. And so we did market this property for sale, and I'll have Assistant Law Director Jason Irick talk about that process and how we landed here.
Thanks, Brian. We started marketing this property around March. We knew this facility was going to go offline with the construction of the new fire stations. We didn't really receive a ton of inquiries on this facility, but we did receive a proposal from the organization proposing to buy the facility tonight. Their proposal came in fairly well. They're planning to do some driving lessons, some English as second language courses, help with job applications. A large facility should meet the community there, but the amount came in at $275,000, which was the best proposal that we had received on that facility.
And I'll add, Commission, that so in the inquiry, when we started this process, there had been some talk or interest from the health department, some interest from potentially the juvenile court system, and then also with it being located adjacent to Bolton, we reached out to the school as well to make sure, was there any potential use? Because I know the health department's looked at different clinic opportunities. The juvenile courts talked about some different services. And then obviously the proximity to the school, did that make sense? And so that's when we engaged them, and they actually walked through it and came back. All three parties came back and said that it wasn't going to work for their needs. And so again, then we publicly put it out on the market and put signs out and received the proposal that we did from the current group. And this would start, so approving this contract would start the due diligence process or period.
Dr. Estrop?
Did we receive any other proposals?
No, we had several different inquiries. So Reggie Troutman in our office and Jason really fielded those. We received inquiries about when it was listed for sale, but and we're told to make offers. This was the only formal offer we were made.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Could the city use the facilities for any other purpose? For instance, to assist with individuals experiencing homelessness or anything of that nature? Could it be a possibility to utilize one of the former fire stations for that?
Yeah, it certainly would be challenging, Commissioner. A lot of it is because, as we talked, and why we're updating or building new fire stations is our last fire station came in 1981, and they have one centralized unisex bathroom, the sleeping quarters and stuff, meeting size requirements and so forth. It would be a challenge to utilize, certainly something we can entertain and look at. We'll eventually have Station 5 and Station 6 on the market as they get replaced by other stations. One's on Ludlow and one's on Commerce. So we can certainly look, but again, it's challenging because the way that they were built and constructed back in the 80s and further back, ADA compliance and so forth would be difficult.
Sure, which is probably the reason why we're building the new buildings.
Yes, exactly why we're
Okay.
building new stations.
Okay, thank you for answering that. That just popped in my brain as you were talking.
Brian, can you confirm that were there any state or federal dollars involved in this purchase?
No, my understanding, and Jason, you want to speak to this directly?
Yeah, so this organization is a not-for-profit organization. They currently operate out of Yellow Spring Street, and they are funded fully through donations and local partnerships. There are no state or federal.
Thank you.
And Jason, did you say what it appraised at, that property? I'm sorry if I missed it.
We did get an appraisal in 2023. The property appraised at $500,000, but the ability to comp that type of facility for that process, we weren't able to get any offers relatively close to that.
And again, it's 0.34 acres. It's 9,500 square feet. The 9,500 square feet probably was just the basis of that appraisal amount. And again, the realtor that worked with the current group was able to provide some more recent comps for the property.
Oh, thank you.
Other comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 1 to the contract between the city and Insight Pipe Contracting LLC for the 2023 sewer lining project to decrease the contract in an amount not to exceed $137,504.10 for a total amount not to exceed $353,448.90, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 1 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
This is really good news. Tell us how this happened.
Yeah, so this is a project that's been in the works the last couple of years, and so this is a total $137,000 deduct. A big portion of that came Ardmore. Work was not able to be completed because the pipes were too small. for this process. And then also after, so this sewer lining process, we go in and actually clean the pipes first to check the shape, that if they're in good shape, if they're in bad shape and need the lining. And after cleaning some of the pipes, they were seen to be in good shape and didn't require the lining, which was a result in an overall deduction.
I know when Eru and I first started on the commission, that they brought, you recall, a sample in of how this whole operation worked. It was very interesting. Maybe you can schedule that for a work session, because it's a very interesting process and it's saving the people of Springfield a lot of money, because we don't have to dig up the street and then repave them and everything to repair a sewer. So just a thought I had about it.
Yes, we'll certainly look in that. I agree. Chris does a great presentation on that. And so we can look to add that to a work session.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Confirming and approving a memorandum of understanding by and between the City Mental Health and Recovery Board of Clark, Greene, and Madison Counties and McKinley Hall Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $210,000 to obtain certified treatment program services for the Clark County Municipal Court pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 4511.191 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
There was one item added to the agenda, reappointing Ethel Bronston to the Civil Service Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes. An announcement from commissioners?
Yes. It is with great sadness that I recognize the passing of Andrew Reynolds, a 28-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department who held the rank of major for the past 8 years. My thoughts are with Marcy and his family during this difficult time, and I extend my sympathies to Sheriff Burchett and the entire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from commissioners? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.